Wake up! Stonecrest.
Learn about your city from neighbors who actually live there. Today we have with us Mr. Herbert Woods. He is running for councilperson for District 3, and I want to hand it over to him now to give him the opportunity to tell us a little about himself. Thank you for coming, Mr. Woods.
Thank you very much for inviting me. As was the introduction, I'm Herbert Woods, and I'm living in the 3rd District for Stonecrest, and I'm running for district councilman. A little background about me. I am from Chicago. I lived in Chicago all my life, and I moved down here in 2015 when I retired from the school system. I was 35 years as a custodian, grounds person, and also with being there all that time, I also had the privilege of being 3 years on a state board, and that was involved. The involvement in the state board was the NEA, educational support personnel, and that was my purpose of being on the state board, to bring in ideas and suggestions that may help the employees and my fellow workers to have a better work environment. Along with that, I had became union president for 7 years, and I did that, enjoyed it tremendously. My purpose in being the president of that group, the ESP, Educational Support Personnel, was to negotiate contracts, do resolutions, problem solving. So I'm well versed in actually knowing how to communicate, because I was taught very well by educational personnel, superintendents, business managers, human resource. All of those individuals actually help mold me to be the person that I am. And that's why I feel as though that I'm pretty well capable. I'm very well capable and qualified to represent District 3. Like I'm saying, bought a house in 2018. I love the community, love Stonecrest. I think it has so much potential. And to me, it really deserves an opportunity to be as good as it could be. And that's probably about the best of what I know about me.
What specific goals will you commit to achieving in your term, and how will residents be able to measure your success or hold you accountable if those goals are not met?
To me, accountability is very important, because first of all, when you take a position like this, so far as a council person, your responsibility is to your constituencies in your community. So what you have to do is make yourself accessible. Being accessible means either having meetings in a community. You have the phone and you have the email. I'm not really familiar with, or I don't have a habit of doing emails. To me, when you're dealing with a large city, I would say with Stonecrest, that's something that, is very important to keep track on. The communication with the phone is another resource of people being in contact with you. The other resource is, having some type of activity so that they can come and you can sit down and have a conversation, with the constituents, hear what their concerns are. So that's a part of what I understand about actually making myself accountable for what the residents and the constituencies are wanting to have done within our community. I walk through the community a lot because I take the bus transportation. I've taken it when my car isn't working. So that gives me an opportunity to see what's going on in the community, what could be improved on, what's needed. I see that, so far as, your curves got weeds all growing up in them, dirt and trash, a lot of that coming up through Panola, and the parks. The parks need to be upgraded, updated, because in my opinion, there's not enough in the parks in our particular area that actually can bring people in to actually enjoy, like I'm talking about, probably playing soccer, doing even basketball, baseball. They have at the Fairden Parkway, they have, an activity for the kids to play on swings and all of that. But we're talking about, I would like to, and my goal is to address adults and the kids to be able to go to the park and have some type of activity that they can enjoy and relax, even if it's just relaxing in that type of environment. To me, then the parks are not as relaxing, in my opinion, as they should be. I would hold myself accountable for getting that stuff done. Sidewalks, not enough sidewalks. When you walk along the side of the highway, it could be kind of dangerous in a way, especially depending upon the time of the day that you walk down the sidewalks, down Panola, down Thompson Mill, down Fairville. It's just not enough sidewalks. And I don't understand why it's taken this long for them to keep doing nothing. And I don't really understand it's money. Then basically they should say it. But when I looked at the budget and what they had $9 million planned out for the administration's budget. You say $9 million. And when I was looking at some positions and stuff like that, you say, well, something's wrong, and usually it's just, people don't pay attention to it, but I'm walking out there and I'm paying attention to it. And so it is necessary that these things need to get done. They should have been done. The lighting, so far as going up and down the streets and the roads, so far as going through, I know my district is very, very, it needs to be addressed. I remember I brought up in one of the meetings about and making the sidewalks a little wider so that people can ride bikes. The big thing now that's happening in society now is they have electric bikes, and so we need to make things for the future that helps people be able to move around through Stonecrest safely. So that would be something else that I would be wanting to push to have that done, having some type of bike trails going through the busy areas also. So that's a part of what I would want to see get done. And I know that it's possible through the partnership with the other districts. It's just having a conversation with them, because I'm quite sure that they must have the same type of situations in their districts. So we have to work together to see about getting some of this stuff done, because it needs to be done.
Stonecrest is growing, but not all development benefits residents equally. What is your plan to attract responsible development without increasing traffic, displacing longtime residents, or ignoring infrastructure needs?
Well, I would say the most important conversation to have is with the economical development director, and me knowing a lot of the dead spots, I would call them, in the community, where there's a lot of land, there's a lot of open spots, there's a lot of open areas. And my concern would be not wanting to crowd out the community, with a whole lot of construction and stuff like that. Because when you start doing that, it just kind of chokes it out. It doesn't have a relaxing feel, and like you said, the traffic, you got a lot of traffic now at certain times of the day. And what's going on now with the construction on 20, but to me, having a conversation with the economical developer to find out what potentially is coming, give some suggestions. I had a suggestion, I would say about a year ago, to actually have a park put on the corner of Panola and Thompson Mill. And I went out to the community and got 300 signatures from constituencies that said it was a good idea. And when I took it to the council, of course, they didn't really move on it, And these are the things that to me are problematic, when you try to make good suggestions. And one of my things that I put on the petition was that to save the green space, because I was in a meeting a week ago and they talked about something I never heard of, but tree canopies. I had never heard the word tree canopies before, but I understand what they're talking about is saving the trees, and when you talk about green space, you talk about whatever development that you want to bring in, talk about how is this going to affect, the green, the trees and the green space in the community, because that is very, very important. But it is real important to have a conversation with the Economical Development Department, because they know what potentially is going to come in and what they are looking at. And the council will also have a lot of, they'll be able to see a lot of it. So just having that conversation, and having that thought in the back of your head that you don't want to overcrowd your community, and you want to try to make sure that you have things that are going to be of benefit, to the community, improvements and everything else to go along with that.
What is your strategy to improve public safety and overall quality of life in Stonecrest beyond policing, including youth programs, mental health support, and community partnership?
Okay, to me, what is important, public safety to me is making sure that you have proper sidewalks, to be able to move around through the community, proper lighting, so that you could see, you can be seen. Also developing, as you mentioned, particular programs, that are going to attract the young people so that they're not, out there in the streets just causing havoc. This is where your parks come into play. Your parks are a tremendous draw for people to come and gather and just enjoy each other, and communicate with each other. So you want to have a park that has facilities and that they're safe, that they're safe. To me, when you have, even when you have meetings, to me, having meetings and talking with the constituencies in the community as to what do they think, what do they think is necessary in order to make the community safer. They need better traffic lights, in certain places, that help, kind of like, may slow down the traffic to the degree to whereas that people are not making it like it's a runway or just a runway just to zoom through the community. Proper lighting, proper street lighting. That to me is important. On top of, I would say, like I said, getting ideas from the community. Me, I see a lot through walking through the community. And I think it is important to make sure grass is cut, your traffic lanes, on the side of the roads, those are clean. Grass is cut all on the sides of the sidewalk, so you have good vision. You could see going up and down the road. There's really the hiding spots, the blind spots. You want to clear a lot of your blind spots because that's safety. That's making sure that people feel safe, in walking, in whatever area that they go to. So to me, that would be something that would be important to me to put emphasis on.
How will you ensure transparency with the city budget, spending on major projects, and use of public funds so residents clearly see where their tax dollars are going?
When I looked at the the budget, what I saw was the fact that I think it's at the beginning of the year. I think it's January or February, I believe. I'm not exactly sure that's the exact month. But the council people, they all sit and they go through the budget and they put out what money goes here, what money goes there, what money goes to administration, what money's going for parks. They put money into certain budgets. Okay. Now, to me, what we don't see is how they're spending the money in the budgets. And that is a telltale of sometimes where there's money, excesses money that's not necessary here and there. And the only way you do that is by a report. I thought about an itemized report of what people are doing with the money in the budgets. Every quarter, they should have a report that actually is put online so that the constituencies can go online and see this report so they know where the money is going and how it's being spent. Now, maybe one would say that that's too much work, but in my opinion, they pay the administration, a pretty decent amount of money to do something. And I think their responsibility is to provide information to the constituencies and to the council people for what's happening with the money. To me, it's the council person's responsibility to require that. It's their responsibility. Evidently, for some reason or another, that probably was something that wasn't required, but I think that it's important because if I see where my money is going, I'm not apt to complain too much. If I see that too much is being spent from one area or another, then I can make some suggestions and say, couldn't you kind of like put more money over here because there's a need, that to me, what makes people trust a government, because what you're doing is you're showing them exactly every quarter where the money is being spent, how the money is being spent. And that makes to me, it makes the government a lot more accountable. Their accountability becomes more trusting to the constituents. That's just would be my suggestion.
Residents often feel decisions are made without them. How will you actively involve citizens, especially seniors, youth, and underserved areas, in major decisions before votes are cast?
To me, it's important to pay attention to what your constituents and fellow community people are saying and suggesting, and what their concerns are. And when they come to you with a concern, my responsibility would be to make sure that I listen, I write it down, get back with the person as to what can happen, what's going to happen, or if nothing can happen, just get back with the individual and, communicate. Just communicate and communicate on all different levels. Like you're saying, you're speaking about, the seniors and, middle age and all of the above. Everybody, in my opinion, deserves to be heard, and they deserve a response. They deserve knowing that somebody is going to do something about what their concerns are. And that's important. I understand the concern of the constituents because I'm in that seat, of concerns that are not being addressed. So I know how it feels. It doesn't feel good. It's not feeling good at all, because each individual, they pay taxes. You pay taxes every year for services to be rendered in your community. And you pay taxes for that person who is your council person to listen and address their concerns and get things done. That's my feeling about it. Just communicate and get back with people and get back with them. And there's no time. To me, there's no time limit. I mean, you can say, well, my clock starts at 3:00. 3:00, I'm done. You can't do that. You can't do that. To me, in taking this type of position, you can't put a time on when you're going to stop talking to constituents, because a lot of people work all day. They don't get off work until 5:00 or 6:00 or something like that. And people work hard every day. A lot of them can't make it to the meetings, because they're working all the time. So if you say you want to do this job, if you say you want to represent people and people in your district, you want to be that person, then be that person. Be that person and be available to them, because their concern is valid and it needs to be addressed. So to me, don't put no time on, I'm busy, I don't want to talk to you. It's a way that you communicate with people, and that helps how they feel about what the government and the city is doing for them. And that's important. That's important to me. And as a person who is running for this particular position, that would be what I would stand on, because it's not a good feeling for somebody to brush you off, and it's a valid concerns. We know a lot of things are on a time clock, and if you don't catch it, before that time clock goes off, then it's gone, it's done. And that's not good, and of course, if you, I think most of us have experienced that type of situation, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good look. It's not a good thing at all. So I would make sure that the concern that the constituents and that the person brings to me in regard to what they feel is necessary to be addressed is addressed before they make votes on this, so that we're all educated. Everybody will be educated to the full concern as to what the resolve could be, what it might be. All that has to be done in advance. You don't turn around and say, "Oh, I forgot." It's not an excuse, because you're not supposed to do that.
Mr. Woods, you're running against your own sister, and that alone raises eyebrows across Stonecrest. People are questioning your motives, your drive, and whether it is really about serving the city or proving a point. How do you respond to those who see this race as personal ambition disguised as public service?
Here's the thing. Personal, family is personal. Family is very personal. Okay. When you get into politics, even on a job, it's business, and business is business. I'm going to give you an example of what I look at as business in regard to this particular position and this particular district. I walked a community, 4 subdivisions, because I think I brought up in early about I was petitioning for a park on Panola and Thompson Mill. And I walked a community, knocked on all these doors, because I thought in my mind it was a good idea to have a park on that corner. But in my mind, I said, well, it's going to take more than just me. I want the council people to see that there are other people that want this. Because the council always talked about, bring your ideas to the council. We're here to listen. We're here to go, and take what you're saying to us into, just have a discussion about it. Okay. And so I did. I walked all these subdivisions, a lot of houses. I got 300 signatures. 300 signatures of people who said they wanted this park. And there were a lot of people that had some concerns, about the park, but the 300 people that signed the petition, they wanted the park. I took that, I emailed my council person, who was my sister, to at least address it. I just wanted her to at least address it and bring it to the council and have a conversation about it. In fact, I went to the council also to have a conversation about it. No one addressed it. No one addressed it. To me, that's business. That's business. I was standing up there representing people, not only myself, not just myself, but I was representing people who couldn't make it to the meeting and said, this is what we want. And when you decide not to even mention it, bring it up, have a conversation, you can say that that was personal to me because it was something that the community wanted. You can't ignore the community just because you have a gripe with a person. When I was union president, and I can give this other example. When I was union president for 7 years. I may not have, you can once say that somebody can come up to me and you can say that I couldn't stand them. You could say, well, I can't stand them. But that person that I didn't like or had a problem with, okay, they come to me with a problem. Guess what? My responsibility is to solve and take care of that person, no matter how our personal relationship is. This is a business. This is serious. It ain't no play or nothing like that. It's a business. If you don't take care of your business, then you've got a little bit of a problem. You can't do that. And I know that affects other people because a lot of times, you get in a position like that, and you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to get a little bit, important, like, you are so important, you got these titles and all of that. It's a business. So it's not personal to me. It's not a personal vendetta against my sister. It's not that. I live in District 3. I live in Stonecrest. I own a home in Stonecrest. I have ideas that literally would help make Stonecrest better. I brought in an idea to code. I asked them. I said, what I learned was that it's approximately 52% of the homes in Stonecrest are owned by management companies. Blew my mind. At least 52% of homes are owned by management companies. So when I went to code, I says, can you make the management companies maintain the properties that they own in Stonecrest, as opposed to putting that burden onto the residents, the people who are renting these houses? And so the code told me, well, no, we can't do that. All we can do is just, if somebody's grass is too long, we can actually, just give them a ticket or something like that. You have to get that done through console. So I mentioned it, and it's like, to me, our communities, when you have all these houses in your community that, first of all, they're charging a lot of rent for these houses for our constituents that live in these communities. So when you own a home, you know what you have to buy. You got to buy a lawnmower, you got to buy a weed eater. If you got bushes, you got to do bushes, you got to do all that trimming. You got to do all of this. And usually a lot of that stuff is not going to get done because they're paying the rents and, they're working hard. So they take care of apartment complexes, the management companies. So these are houses. These are individual houses, and they're still owned by management companies. And my idea was to do a ordinance to make them maintain these properties. And that, to me, would bring up the quality of the community of making sure that these houses are taken care of. These are things that are everybody is not in their radar to want to do or even make a suggestion to do. But to me, my thing is I want Stonecrest to be better. I want Stonecrest to be to the level that it probably was some time ago. And I believe that it could be brought back and made to look better than the way it's looking. That's what I truly believe. And I believe that I can do that. There's certain things that, sometimes things that we can say, well, what we're qualified to do. There's things that we can learn. We can learn. I voted for my sister, and that's my business. I voted for my sister to be the council person. I voted for her because I wanted her to be successful in making things better in the area that we lived in. But there were a lot of things that just didn't get done. And one can say when you're new, you're not able to do this, that, and the other. Well, they were basic things. And sometimes you don't look. Everybody doesn't have the same vision. Everybody doesn't have the same ideas. I have probably a different vision, a different type of a vision, because I like the way things, I like to see things look nice. I like to see things look clean. When I drive off of Panola, off the 20 and get on Panola and come home, I kind of think about Alpharetta and say, man, it would be nice to have it look like that when I get off at expressways. Any of these expressways should look nice. It should be impacting. So people are willing to come here and shop and go to any restaurants, that whatever restaurants you can bring new restaurants, bring new people into the area. If it looks good, people will come. I use a terminology. Some people say that, they're not going to come there. But my mom lives on off of Harrison and Wesley Chapel. And I use this example. They put a Chipotle's, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, over there by Chick-fil-A. And who would have thought that would be in our neighborhood? It's there. And it's busy, all the time. So to say that certain things are impossible to do because of the type of people living in the area, Stonecrest has a lot of money, a lot of different levels. It kind of reminds me of the community I grew up in Morgan Park. It was a community that had middle, lower, and upper class people living all in the same neighborhood, taking care of each other, having respect for each other, and it was a clean community. It's possible. It's possible to be done. So it has nothing to do with being trying to be vindictive of my sister and nothing like that. No. Some people have skills to do one thing or another, and they can learn, to do. Well, we all can learn to do better than what we know. We can learn something new. Sometimes some of us really don't want to learn something new to make things better. I think I have a skill set to make things better, to take it to another level, to where it should be and where it can be. So the concern is valid, but it's about bringing Stonecrest to an higher level. That's what it's all about.
Last thing we want to do is give you the opportunity to tell all of our listeners why they should vote for you in your go get 'em speech.
I believe and I know that you will see a difference. Because the one thing that I know that's necessary is that you have to be in partnership with all the other districts. It takes 3 votes to get something done. 3 votes. You got 5 council people. I would like to see 5 votes to want to get things done. And in that 5 votes, that means that District 5 needs something done. And I have to be on board with what District 5 would want to get done in their community. District 4, District 2. I know all of these districts need things done. And the only way that we get them done is talk to each other. Talk to each other. and say, this is what I need. This is what I need. And get it done, because I was told this, and I was told this by an administrator some years ago in Stonecrest. Each district council person is like the mayor of their community. They're like the mayor. That means that you are responsible for bringing good things and making sure what is there is taken care of. That is what my responsibility will be, is to make sure that everything is taken care of. The streets are cleaned. That I don't want to walk down the street and see weeds growing up in the curves, trash all up and down the curves, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't think I have to see it, because my responsibility is to get it done. Talk to the people who are in charge and make sure that they know that this is a responsibility. This is what the taxpayer, this is what you're paying for, is for somebody to represent you and make sure that your community is clean. Your community is a community that you can be proud of when your family comes here, or your company comes here. That's what I will bring to District 3 if you elect me as your district council person for Stonecrest. And I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I know I can probably be a lot more long-winded in my response, but it's just a passion of just wanting to see things get better, and they can be better, just vote for me and you'll see.
Thank you to listening to the Stonecrest Podcast Election Series for the City Council candidates. Remember to tell your neighbors, share this podcast with everyone you know, and listen to every single episode so that you can vote in the know. The Stonecrest Podcast.
Driving awareness within our community.